So what can parents do? I mean, if it is that inconspicuous, I guess it's just, it kind of happens naturally, so to speak, right? This process, this grooming process. You're being groomed. You have no idea.
Right.
This person is charismatic and so great with your kids and lovable, likable.
I would start looking at what is the benefit to this person? Why is this person... Let's agree, as adults, kids are very difficult, right?
Yes.
They have tantrums. They are not that pleasant to be around. We can't do or talk the way we would like to talk with our friends when children are around, right? Like, we have to, edit ourselves when children are around. Most people don't like it, right? So if you have someone who is like rip-raring to go to take your kid to the water park and all the friends, and you don't need to come, you need a day for yourself, right? You're a tired mom, you need a day. Why is this person doing that? Like, really, it's not a comfortable thought to have, right? That like people are doing things in order to manipulate you. And sometimes I think truly, with a lot of the clients that I've worked with, over 20 years, I've heard a lot of stories. And I truly believe, 20% of the time, I don't think the offender knows what they're doing yet. I think that they know that they like this feeling, they like this sensation, they like being part of this family, and I think that they're aware of their thoughts. But it's not like, oh, I have a plan, I'm going to do this, then I'm going to do this, then I'm going to do this. It's as their life is unfolding and they have poor boundaries, they're like, oh, I've set myself up to be alone with these kids. Right? So, for example, I had this grandpa I worked with for a long time, and he was like, I liked having kids in the house. I liked having a large home. They were a Hispanic family. They just liked culturally having big dinners and food around. And he then acknowledged, and then I noticed I wasn't really inviting the parents anymore. I was enjoying more time in the pool. And then I realized what my thoughts were. And then I was concerned. So some people come into therapy before they're required, before they're caught. Some people cold call us and say, hey, I'm concerned about some thoughts I'm having, some behaviors I'm doing. I'd like to come talk to someone about that. And we will treat people before they're mandated to counseling.
Wonderful.
So I think it's looking at the situation objectively and just saying, like, what is this person benefiting from doing this? Why is someone agreeing to wake up 35 minutes earlier to get my kid and take them in a carpool to school? Right? It would be nice to think that typically people are nice people and we want to live in a community and all the things that I think are important values. I think it's important at the same time to look at the situation realistically. Would you wake up 35 minutes to drive the wrong direction to get someone else's child before school? I mean, maybe you would do it if someone asked you and there was a real reason and you were trying to be kind. Right. But to offer a service like that, it doesn't make any sense. So I think it's important for parents to start really looking at these relationships. Also, if your kid is coming home with a bunch of new clothes, they don't have a job, all of a sudden they have money to go to the movies all the time, where is this coming from? That is a big clue when your child starts coming home with a cell phone that you were unaware of. Name brands that you've said no to. I'm not purchasing you $400 Jordans. I'm not going to do that. All of a sudden they have Jordans. That's the stuff that I'm concerned about. People often will say, well, I just thought they were shoplifting.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm like, well, that's still a problem. But yeah. But a child is not very likely to tell you, oh, my new friend Bob got me these Jordans, because they want the Jordans. So it's really about taking off those blinders and looking at situations in a realistic perspective, even if it's uncomfortable. And I think a large problem, too, is that if I look at this situation and have to think about it, well, now I have to think about what happened to me as a child. Right? So right now, 1 out of 7 boys comes forward that they were sexually abused, and 1 out of 4 girls comes forward and says they were sexually abused. We know the number is much higher, because how many people do you know, and I know in my personal life, who have never said anything, who've never told? Even if they did tell, maybe they only told part of the story. people typically don't report sex abuse. So in my opinion, it's 1 in 2, at least for girls. It's a high number. Those people grow up and they become parents. They never had treatment. They've never talked about it. So then they've never talked about anything with their kids. And now I have to feel my own pain from my childhood and your pain, and I have to support you. That's really difficult.
Yeah.
And to not use substances to cope as the parent, right? Because if I'm remembering my old trauma, I'm experiencing my child's trauma. Humans want Band-Aids. That's why we use substances, right? It takes us away from our pain, even for a little moment of time. And I think that's part of the reason that parents make excuses or give other options, like stealing. It's easier to think, kids are bad, kids steal, than I've put someone in my child's life that could really take advantage of them and hurt them.
So would you say there's a typical profile or typology when it comes to
the offender?
The offenders.
So typically when we're looking at offenders, 64% are African American, 27% white, Caucasian, and the remaining is mixed race. 75% are men, 25% women. Typically, however, women are only engaged as a co-defendant. It's rare that women engage alone.
As a primary. Okay. Wow.
Like their own multi-level marketing. Right.
And I think, is it true that if they do kind of go out on their own, that they were also a victim in the beginning or at one time?
Say again.
So like,
if we got a female pimp.
A female pimp, so she's like a renegade, basically.
Right, yeah.
Right?
Yes.
So she's a female pimp. She's recruiting her own girls. Is it true, or is it most likely that she at one point was a victim of trafficking, of sex trafficking?
So if we have a female panderer who's working independently, it is very likely that she was a victim of sex abuse herself, and it is very likely that she has low education. So in my career, so over 20 years, I've worked with 3 female panderers that worked alone. None of them could read or write.
Oh my gosh.
And their main target was their children. So they were mostly selling their own children.
Oh, wow.
That is atypical. Very often it is males, young males, handsome, well-spoken, someone you'd want to date. Because if you don't want to date them, how are they going to get women and girls to go along with this, right?
True.
Or at least to be scared. So the typical panderer, you probably wouldn't notice them because they are very suave and very complimentary, and they fly right under that radar. So when we do group therapy, we'll have a lobby of new people. Okay, so let's say we're starting a brand new group. There's a room full of people. Some have offended children, hands-on. Some have exposed themselves to adults. Some are panderers. Let's say some create child sex abuse material. I always know who the panderer is out of that group because they are going to be the most attractive,
Okay.
the most well-dressed. They speak well. They're very flirtatious with me, but not to the point where I'm able to say, you're being flirtatious. They just walk that line. Lots of eye contact, very confident, smart. I can always pick them out of the group.
Interesting. Would you say that they're narcissistic in a way, or?
I think that childhood trauma can turn into narcissism, yeah, because if you look at childhood trauma, right, if we're looking at one of those examples that we talked about earlier, you're an 8-year-old boy, 88% of them are watching domestic violence in their home, right? So they're watching their father severely injure their mother. You know, the mom is asking the child to help them call 911, right? They're involving the child in the abuse. They don't have the means to get treatment. Culturally, it's inappropriate for them to get treatment.
Yeah.
Be a man, stop crying. It doesn't matter, it was one day, big deal. Worse happened to me, you want to hear what happened to me, right? So negating their own experiences. This person does not grow up to value relationships, compatibility. They don't value empathy. It didn't serve them. Protecting themselves served them. And so now, narcissists, right? The definition of a narcissist is from narcissa. So like staring at yourself so lovingly in the water that you drown in the water. It's all about you and how you reflect into the world and how you present yourself. So are they all narcissists? I don't have any stats on that. However, it makes sense to me that a child who had to take care of themselves grew up to continue to take care of themselves at someone else's expense. That doesn't surprise me. No one really had empathy for that. Really, in treatment, what we're looking at and what we do in treatment for victims is we reaffirm to them, this is not your fault. Even if you said yes, right? Because we have lots of teens that are like, well, I didn't say no, and I just laid there. Doesn't matter. Laying there is not a yes, right? Adults need to tell children, teens, I'm not going to engage in a sex behavior with you, even if a child or teen is coming onto you. So they really blame themselves. I came onto him. Right. But it's the role of the adult to say no to that. And so we reaffirm in treatment that wasn't your responsibility to say no. It wasn't your responsibility at all to be even put in that position. So whatever you did in that moment was enough. So part of the issue is that they don't trust their own sights. They don't trust their own feelings in these relationships, the victims. They think that they missaw, they misspoke, it's their fault. Especially when you finally tell someone as a victim and then your mom says to you, what did you do to make him do that? What were you wearing?
Right.
That still happens in court all the time. Well, what were you wearing? Doesn't matter. I should be able to wear a bikini if I want all day, every day, and I should still have body autonomy. And so in therapy, we review. Doesn't matter what you were wearing. It doesn't matter if you made eye contact with him. It doesn't matter if you drank alcohol. So very often kids won't report because they were drinking at a party and that's where they were assaulted. So they don't want to tell their parents because now they have to say they were at a party. So I think as parents, it's important that we say, even if you make a mistake, if you make a poor choice and something really bad happens, it's still okay to tell me. You're not going to be in trouble for the poor choice you made. Everyone makes poor choices. I need you to still tell me when it happens, if it happens. Because the amount of kids that I see that they don't want to be in trouble. As the victim, they don't want to be in trouble. Well, I was ditching school and, it's my fault because that's why the janitor found me in the gym. So we give them back their sanity. No, you saw that correctly, though. You were scared at first. You saw that correctly. You were right. Your mom should have attended to you. Your mom should have said, I'm so sorry. That should be the first thing out of their mouth. How can I help you? I'm so sorry. Not asking children, do you want to press charges? The amount of parents that let the child decide if they're going to press charges against a family member, because again, typically these are family members. You're going to let the child decide if they're going to press charges on their uncle and have the entire family dislike them for that?
Yeah, that's a lot.
It's a lot for a child. So we reaffirm you shouldn't have been in the position in the first place. Anything that you did to protect yourself is acceptable, even if it's lying quietly, if it's fighting, if it's pretending you enjoyed it so it would stop sooner. All of those behaviors are acceptable. We remind them about body autonomy, about internal feelings, a gut feeling, when your heart's racing, when you feel nervous and sweaty around a certain person, and not in a good way, not like in a butterfly way, but like something is seriously wrong here. So we reaffirm you do know, you can tap into that, right? People don't know better than you about your own body. And that's really one of the cornerstones that we teach in treatment, that their life is worthwhile and that they are worthwhile. So if you don't get that and you were a victim and you grow up, you can easily see the cycle of mental health issues, substance abuse issues, self-esteem, low education. All of that contributes. All of that contributes. And families are cyclical beings. So until there's an intervention to stop that chain, and you have to stop it at multiple levels, right? Because if it's just your narrow family that sought treatment, but your whole extended family is making fun of you for going to therapy, or saying that you're a baby for reporting it, or blaming you, we listen to our systems. So if our systems are telling us, I'm bad, wrong, I shouldn't have reported, I shouldn't have whatever, it's difficult. Even if you have, in your home, you've stopped the abuse cycle, we're still looking at it over here, right? On the other part of our family. So if those people don't change and you don't remove yourself from them, your children are going to be with those extended family members. Those are your cousins. Those are your neighbors, right? So it's not just changing your home, but it's also the culture within multiple homes that feed into your home. Which is hard because you don't have control over other people. And so sometimes it's unfortunately, sometimes our choice is drawing that line. Like, I'm no longer going to allow my child to hear these messages, even though it's going to estrange me from some of my family. And that's a decision that people have to make on their own.